So now it's time to play the SNES version. As you've seen in the previous video, the Amiga version was pretty good. The SNES version is different, but not too different either. It's got different characters, different enemies. They play a little different, but the missions, well, they sort of rehash the story, but they created different level maps, and they reused certain elements from the Amiga version, and at some point in the later parts of the levels the developers got a bit lazy and they started recycling parts from the Amiga version. Personally, I think those parts are the stronger moments of the SNES version. Well, let's take a look whether it's any good or any bad. Some people say that it is a really bad game, but I kind of think I have a different opinion about this. So this is the police station where you can select the missions. The first 4 missions can be played in any order. The 5th one has to be unlocked by completing the first 4 missions first. Unlike the Amiga version, there is no password system, so you have to play through the entire game in one go. Mission 1, same story as the Amiga version. Illegal smugglers have stuff that has to be found, and it's on a ship at the end, just like in the end of Lethal Weapon 2. Well, it starts off with climbing ladders and shooting some guys with poles. Those can be pretty annoying. If they hit you and you're on a ladder, you're being pushed off. They simply knock you off and you have to climb up again. And because there's a timer, that can become pretty annoying. And I can understand that some people absolutely and utterly hate that. So we jumped off the crane. Simply avoid the wrench guy. I'm not really sure if you can shoot him. I have tried it, but I cannot exactly remember. Anyway, I usually don't bother with it, just avoid it. This section is a bit tricky. You just gotta try this a couple of times until you get the hang of it. If you fail here, you're in for a frustrational part. You see, Myrtle can jump pretty decently. He seems to be a bit more agile than Riggs. Watch out for the shark. And we're heading towards the ship. In the Amiga version there's also a ship, but I didn't show that because I couldn't get that far. If you want, you can climb those ropes, including that one of the moving boats. Avoid the life saver. It'll knock you off if you get hit. Just be patient. When it comes to the jumping, it's placed in a similar way as the Amiga version, but the enemies are completely different. This section is a bit annoying. It looks like you can't walk through the walls at first glance, but in fact you can, although they look solid. Avoid the barrels that are dropped from the top and grab the clock. You need to be constantly searching for those clocks. because if the time runs out you have to start over, which completely sucks. Ouch. Luckily those barrels, they move at an interval that's pretty constant. You just gotta get a feel for the timing. Careful. Oh damn. Bump, 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 bump. In this part of the ship you can find extra weapons and extra lives and clocks. And occasionally you face an enemy and you have to do some tricky jumps. Okay, we've got some extra time now. When you pick up a clock you gain a minute of extra time. There's an ammo clip. This enemy is placed really cheaply. Oh, I said that a bit awkward. Another cheap enemy, as you can see. Now we give Riggs a try. Watch out for the moving radar arms. Those things that rotate there. Don't hit them. What makes this jump tricky is that the platform is really small. And yes, that's actually a stair, although it looks like it's not a walkable part of the scenery. So that's a bit confusing. Watch out with those ship horns. Those puffs knock you off the rope. If you let go of the ropes, you actually fall inside the ship. Now we're on to mission 2, where the terrorists are threatening to blow up the sewers and of course the subway system. The execution is a little different in the Amiga version at first glance, although the later part of the level is completely recycled. Watch out for those spikes. They are a pain in the ass, literally. And since when do sharks live in sewers? That enemy, of course, is placed on a cheap position. Oh, and don't get hit by the shark's mouth. And that looks like floating garbage, the platform. I don't know what kind of contraption it is. Just looked like a raft made out of junk. Again, take your time and watch out for the spikes below. They move in a constant interval. Well, I mean they appear at a constant interval. They don't actually move. But as long as you get the timing right, you'll be safe. Again, watch out. Even if you just walk into the spikes, you die. extra health or extra energy. Watch out for the boulders that come out of the pipes. It's kinda odd though that these kind of things happen in a sewer. Unlike the Amiga version, it is actually safe to swim in the sewage water. So that's a difference. Also different is that the chains are actually stationary. In the Amiga version they basically move, and there you have to avoid sewage waterfalls. In some ways this version is easier, and I guess that's why they gave it a time limit, to basically compensate for that. But I think they just shouldn't have bothered with it, because it's just plain annoying. Now we're coming in another tricky situation. You see how nasty they were with the placement of those spikes. If you're not watching out carefully, you simply fall onto them. And they pierce your butt. So the Rocket Man is gone. Yeah, we can't make that jump, so we have to get up there. Again, watch your timing. Oh man, you see, that's something to be careful of. Yeah, we can safely land there. This part is pretty frustrating, and it's really there to exhaust you. Small platforms, lots of tricky jumps, takes a few tries, and it's really testing out your frustration level. My advice, don't rush it, take your time with this. Okay. Grab the ammo clip. Oh shit, we're hit. Now we are probably gonna fail. Yes, I didn't push the jump button correctly. Ouch, stupid boulder. They seem to come out everywhere. Anyway, this section can get you really mad. It's like boiling points. Anyway, you gotta stay cool. And there is tons of ways to fail. Phew! Finally! Yeah, careful now. Easy does it. So, get a load of that. Oh! Phew! We almost got pierced. Quick! Jump! So we survived that. This is a rather nice looking section, at least graphically. In this section you have to defuse a few bombs. Basically you toggle the switches. Oh, we shouldn't have gone there. Anyway, this kind of looks like some kind of maintenance tunnel. And there's a shark that is trying to annoy me. Somehow the shark doesn't feel like Rick's defusing the bomb. The shark doesn't want that. That's probably why the terrorists have put the shark in there in the first place. They thought, well, that might actually scare off the cops. Oh, that was a bit unfortunate. Oh man, I'm doing it again. So, just kick him. Oh, actually I was out of ammo. Damn. And when you get out of ammo, it suddenly becomes a lot harder. Bam. It's a kind of funny looking stare, isn't it? Now, another set of switches. You have to disable all of them. Yeah, there's a door somewhere that we can't go through yet. In this tank there's no shark. There's a door switch. And when you hear that clicking sound, you know you have activated it. Oh, you can pretty much ignore those two enemies there. Watch out for this one. Ooh. Two ammo clips. Subway station. They completely ripped this off the Amiga version. They only changed the enemies, but they reused the backgrounds. Even though this version was designed by different people. Don McDermott and Nick West were not involved with this version. Although Barry Leach and the other music guy actually were involved. I can't remember his name. I believe it was Dean Evans. I skipped ahead a little bit here because this part is a bit repetitive and a bit long too. After this section you get a part where you are facing with bombs on the floors. Yeah, just take your time, watch out for the bomb. And as far as I know, you can actually walk on those seats. But in the later parts the seats are gone, so you have to take some giant leaps. Like here for instance. And let's see if there's an enemy. No, luckily not. I believe we are almost at the train part. See, they placed an enemy right out of your sight. The train part is also in the Amiga version. Pretty similar with all the flashing lights. And after this part you reach the boss. The boss is pretty easy, just pump him full of lead. And when you're out of ammo you can always kick him. Oh, we have very little ammo left. Now we have to use some martial arts. So we completed mission 2. Now it's on to mission 3, and this one is not in the Amiga version. That one has a completely different level. But in this case you have to stop terrorists from bombing a shopping mall. Again, this sort of reminds me of Lethal Weapon 2, where a building has been blown up. One major annoyance in this level are those air ducts that you see there. They can be a pain in the ass. But apart from that, this is actually the shortest level in the game as far as I can tell. The flamethrower guy is also a pain in the ass because he is strategically placed to annoy you. And that one is just completely stupid. When he's facing backwards you can easily hit him. Ah, watch out! Don't walk, because the air vents will suck you down. Only the vents without the arrow on them are dangerous. The ones with the arrow are actually the point where you come out if you were actually trapped in them. Oh, you see? Riggs just shot the clock. Now he can't pick it up. Now that's pretty annoying. Some people have a lot of difficulty with this section. I had it too at first. Just requires some practicing. Once you got a hang of the controls, it's not that hard anymore. You just gotta do this a couple of times. And of course you gotta time your jumps. Okay, we're a bit further now with 2 big lifts. I guess this is some kind of parking garage. Although I don't see any cars. Maybe it's just a building under construction. Kinda has a construction site feel to it. Uh-oh. I'm hearing the timer. We're almost out of time. And when that's the case, you start to freak out and do all sorts of crazy stuff. So that usually means you start screwing things up. Like this, I should have gone into the door. Well, that's just silly me. Ouch. Ooh. What am I thinking? I should not be going there. Maybe I was just looking for ammo. Now we're inside the mall. And what you gotta do here is toggle a couple of switches and defuse some bombs. We can actually jump on there, so you can shoot the enemies on the left, on the right. One thing though, where you are at the stairs, you cannot really see the enemy. Well, the screen was fading to black because oh yes, I actually made a cut in the video. This is the same level, only a bit higher up. And Murtaugh destroyed his ammo clip that he could pick up. Yes, you can, just like the clocks, you can shoot the ammo clips too. Which doesn't make any sense. And you see that enemy was totally out of sight. Another annoying enemy that's hiding behind a column. Anyway, there's a bomb on the ceiling, and you know, Murtaugh has got something with bombs. If you remember the scene from Lethal Weapon 2 where he is sitting on his bathroom toilet with a bomb mounted on it. Well, the Mythbusters actually have tested out this myth, whether you could survive this particular situation, and it turned out it was possible. It's one of the very few instances where the situation from the movie was actually possible. You know, most of the times it's completely bollocks what they do in movies. So this was kind of interesting, I guess. So once you've found that switch up on the top, you have to move your way downwards. So now we're down in the basement and we are killed. Let's see if Riggs can save the day. Anyway, you get hit quite easily, simply because the enemies are out of the visible screen area. And I think that's kinda cheap. Well, just a few more enemies and we have nailed mission 3. So that's the end. Simply touch the bomb. And we don't know whether or not the building exploded. That's just a complete mystery. Up to stage 4 and it's Leo gets time. Yes, he's captured. Okay. Will you help me? Okay, we are going to help you, Leo. At least if we can pull this off. It's hard enough in the Amiga version. And if you watch closely, it's almost the same, with a few small differences. In the Amiga version you had some toggle switches which controlled the platforms that you had to activate. It's not the case here. Here they simply move back and forth and you just have to do a few jumps. And you've got to do a lot of them. So it's exhaustive. The jumps themselves are not too hard, it's really just the enemies that knock you off the platforms that can frustrate the heck out of you. Like this, for instance. And we've got to watch out for those unstable floors again. So let's get the clock. As you can see, you can walk on the top of the air ducts. The unstable floor tiles, they kinda seem to bounce, or it almost looks like they're sort of dancing. I've heard another reviewer commenting on the music that it is repetitive or boring. Well, I don't agree with that, but actually I think it's nicely orchestrated. For a Super NES game, it's good enough in my opinion. Ocean had some good composers. That's something they were always good at. If you listen to the music of Jurassic Park, for instance, it's also pretty nice. Music in this stage has a sense of loneliness to it. You're just a lonely cop in a sort of deserted office building, trying to save that frantic Leo Getz guy. I wonder what a flamethrower is doing in an office building anyway. The later part of the stage is really hard. Unfortunately, I'm not going to show that, but it's pretty much the same as in the Amiga version. There's a section with air vents that try to suck you away while you are trying to navigate on small platforms and touching switches. Hook. Ooh. Man, is that a rocket propelled grenade? Unlike the DOS version, the platforms are actually really visible here. They're bright and orange, and they don't have the same color as the background, which kinda annoyed me with the DOS version. Ooh, I almost fell through the floor. You probably remember this part from the Amiga version, but in this case you're doing the exact opposite thing. In the Amiga version you had to work your way down. Here you have to work your way up. It's just as tricky, but it's slightly easier because the screen doesn't move and nothing explodes here. In the Amiga version the screen would sometimes shake with an explosion, and that explosion would shake you off a platform. You don't have to deal with this here. Anyway, the design of this version is slightly different. Maybe the people at Ocean thought, well, a Nintendo is a system for kiddies, so let's make it a little easier. Now it's up to the final mission, where the story is based on the story of Lethal Weapon 3, where there's some corrupt ex-police officer dealing in arms. And just like the Amiga version, there's a lot of annoying jumps. I must admit this part gets really repetitive too. Especially the first section. The later part is a bit more varied, but also a lot harder in terms of the jumping. But you'll see that in a minute or so. So, ooh, I almost didn't make that jump. You have to take really big leaps. Oh, enemy is still there. Oh, I should have watched out for that. Here, he's clearly visible and I still can't hit him. Is that a bug? Anyway, I think the designers would have done a better job if they just ported the Amiga version and gave it a few upgrades. But I guess Nintendo didn't want that. Nintendo always wanted a sense of exclusivity on their systems, whether or not the other version was actually better. Anyway, this game was made by a much larger group of people. On the Amiga version there were only like, well, about 5 people or so, or 6 people who developed it, including the testers. But this version took a lot more people. And this is a tricky section. especially those moving blocks. Anyway, we're now in the police station's parking garage. These jumps are pretty tricky. And actually we're almost at the end of the video now, and the time is also running out. So that was the SNES version. It's time to settle the score. The SNES version, as you can see, is pretty frustrating at parts. The level design is a bit cheap, especially enemy placement. You cannot always see what's behind you. In my opinion, they should have ported the Amiga version, because that one is better. But this game is not the worst either. I think it's mediocre. Well, graphically the SNES is capable of much more, but I kind of forgive the developers for this, because it was an early SNES game, so I think they were kind of uncomfortable with the capabilities of the machine. The audio department is all fine. The music something I like. The tracks are good, but it's with any Ocean game practically. They always have nice music. Control is reasonable. It's a little more complicated because you have the controller and you have to deal with 3 buttons. That's kind of a complicating factor. That sometimes get me confused. As you can see, the first part of stage 1 was really frustrating with those cranes. Some people really hate that. Well, it's just a part where you have to go through, and you just have to practice it a lot. But really the biggest enemy in this game is the time limit. That's something they really should have left out. But I guess they put it in there because they made the rest a little bit easier than the Amiga version. As you can see, the stronger moments of the game are the parts that they just recycled. Just as the Amiga version, you can play the first few missions in any order. In this case, it's the first 4. And, well, you see mission 4, they almost completely reused from the Amiga version. And they just made some really small changes to it. And in the later parts that I haven't shown you, they have really reused the heck out of it. That's all fine by me. Well, some people would say it's a lack of creativity, whatever, blah blah blah. Well, I don't mind, as long as it plays fine. So, my final verdict is that it's mediocre, and, well, I give it a 6 out of 10.